So, verse 8, for this reason in one day her plagues will come, pestilence and mourning and famine, and she will be burnt up with fire, for the Lord who judges her is strong. Okay, so it's a little bit reminiscent, reminds us of the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. Fire and brimstone fell out of heaven, destroyed uh, Sodom and Gomorrah and the other cities down there on the plain of Jordan near the Dead Sea because of the wickedness of the people. Well, same type of judgment is going to fall on the kingdom of the Antichrist. And the timing of this is right at the end of the Great Tribulation. Okay, let's go on. Then verse 9 says, and the kings of the earth who committed acts of immorality and lived sensuously with her will weep and lament over her when they see the smoke of her burning. Okay, so this is the political aspect. The kings are weeping and everything because they are losing all their source, all their power, all their source of income. Verse 10, standing at a distance because of the fear of her torment, saying, woe, woe, the great city, Babylon, the strong city, for in 1 hour your judgment has come. Okay, so that's the political, the kings mourning over their loss because the kingdom now has been destroyed. And then we have, next is the commercial aspect, verse 11, of the economics. And the merchants of the earth weep and mourn over her because no one buys their cargoes anymore. You know, it's going to list a bunch of stuff. You notice all this is luxury items, very high priced stuff. Verse 12, cargoes of gold and silver, precious stones and pearls and fine linen and purple and silk and scarlet and every kind of citron wood and every article of ivory and every article made from very costly wood and bronze and iron and marble and cinnamon and spice and incense and perfume and frankincense and wine and olive oil and fine flour and wheat and cattle and sheep and cargoes of horses and chariots and slaves and human life. Okay, so all these merchants, the products which they sell are all luxury items. There's no famine. They're all living opulent lives and everything in Antichrist's kingdom. But in 1 hour, it's all gone. Verse 14, and the fruit you longed for has gone from you. And all things that were luxurious and splendid have passed away from you, and men will no longer find them. So all the power, all the prestige, all the riches, everything that they lusted after is gone. So it shows the futility of people who trust in those things instead of trusting in God. The things of the earth will pass away. Jesus said, don't lay up treasures in heaven, on earth, where moth and rust corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. He said, instead lay up treasures in heaven. That's where the permanent riches and the permanent treasure is. The treasures on earth are just fleeting, and they could vanish anytime, especially when the judgment of God falls upon it. It happens in an hour. Okay. Verse 15 then says, the merchants of these things, all these luxury goods, who became rich from her, will stand at a distance because of the fear of her torment, weeping and mourning and saying, woe, woe, the great city, she who was clothed in fine linen and purple and scarlet and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls. For in 1 hour such great wealth has been laid waste, and every shipmaster, and every passenger, and sailor, and as many as make their living by the sea, stood at a distance, and were crying out as they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, What city is like the great city? And they threw dust on their heads, and were crying out, which is the way they show their grief. They're throwing up dust. Threw dust on their heads, and were crying out, weeping and mourning, saying, Woe, woe, the great city, in which all who had ships at sea became rich by her wealth, for in 1 hour she has been laid waste. Okay, so the city here represents the Antichrist kingdom and all those who were the leaders in it, all those who were participating in it, all who were getting personally wealthy. The judgment of God falls upon them because of all the corruption and the evil involved in it. And then verse 20 says, Rejoice over her, O heaven, and you saints, and apostles and prophets, because God has pronounced judgment for you against her. Okay, so these are the martyrs who previously had been saying, How long, O Lord, till you avenge our blood? And they were told to just wait patiently because it was coming, and so now it has come. So now the vengeance of God is poured out upon them for the persecution and the death that they have done to his people, the saints, the apostles, and the prophets. Okay, so the ungodly system then received the judgment of God because of their wickedness and because of their treatment of God's servants, saints, apostles, and prophets. Okay, verse 21, And a strong angel took up a stone like a great millstone and threw it into the sea, saying, Thus will Babylon, the great city, be thrown down with violence, and will not be found any longer. Okay, so this angel then symbolically takes this great millstone and throws it into the sea, and of course it sinks. And so throwing a millstone into the sea means that at the end it's not recoverable. It can't be brought back. So destruction is permanent. And then it goes on, verse 22, saying that describing the things which will be lost. Verse 22. The sound of harpists and musicians, flute players and trumpeters will not be heard in you any longer. This is symbolic, of the luxurious living with music, entertainment, where everybody's living lives of luxury. And it goes on and says, And no craftsman of any craft will be found in you any longer. Okay, so people who make things will no longer be earning a living. And the sound of a mill will not be heard in you any longer. It's probably represent all industry as they're manufacturing products and so forth. That's all coming to an end. And the light of a lamp will not shine in you any longer. what that would represent, like the ability to live comfortable lives, nightlife, whatever. And the voice of the bridegroom and bride will not be heard in you any longer. So the joy of living, and continuation, and everything has come to an end. For your merchants were the great men of the earth, because all the nations were deceived by your sorcerers. Okay, so people got taken in with the movers and shakers, we might say, just got taken up with the pursuit of wealth and power, and they neglected God and bringing God into their thoughts and into their lives. Okay, the true God, if you say. They were all in the Antichrist. Verse 24, and in her, that is the city of Babylon, was found the blood of prophets and of saints and of all who had been slain on the earth. Okay, so the destruction then of Antichrist's kingdom, the main reason, of course, was the persecution and the martyrdom of all God's servants. So this was God's vengeance upon them, but also because they had turned to their own ways. They had not sought the Lord. They put their trust in their riches, put their trust in power, put their trust in everything else except God. Now, the next chapter we have dealt with the actual second coming of Christ. And we will see that the Antichrist is gathered there in Israel, and he's got all his armies there, and all the forces from the east have come. They have probably come to battle each other. And at the same time, the judgment of God now is falling upon the Antichrist kingdom. And you can imagine he's out there on the battlefield, and throughout his career, everything has gone his way. He's never lost a battle. He's never been defeated in a battle. His economic policies have all been profitable, have all brought prosperity. Those loyal subjects in his kingdom are enjoying luxurious living and everything, and suddenly he starts to get messages. Rome is burning. It's in flames. So the smoke is rising up. People at great distances can see the smoke. So here, standing here, everything now is starting to cave in on it. All the major cities in the world are having earthquakes. This whole kingdom, Western Empire, is falling. Here he's starting to get these messages. So you can imagine how, what's happening to him. And we'll see next time in chapter 19 when Christ actually comes. I believe it's probably the same day that this destruction we just read about. So you can see how in the one day, or in the 1 hour, as it said, all this time the Antichrist is continuing to increase in power right up until the very end. And then suddenly, it's all over. Christ returns, the Antichrist kingdom is destroyed. Okay, so we'll break here, pick up chapter 19.